This is the Simpit. I'm your host, Sean Cole, but the real star of today's show is a league that I had the pleasure of running with last month that I want to showcase here on the show. I often get invites from various different leagues, opportunities to run with their group, see what they have to offer, and I love doing it because it's a great opportunity to see how one league runs things or does things, or whether they do broadcasts, or the level of competition that they have, or maybe even the amount of series that they have available. I'm always fascinated by the amount of people who get into these groups and are so dedicated to running things in that league fashion, which is totally different than the open racing environment that a lot of us also do. So when Kevin Ford of Xtreme Motorsports gave me the opportunity to run with their series, I was all in. They offered me a ride in one of their series endurance races, a 90-minute race at Le Mans, running in the Mazda Miata, and I figured that fits me pretty well. I'll go ahead and take that chance. And before I even get down to telling you about the race and the league and more about it, I want to apologize to Kevin Ford and all the guys I ran with that night, because it has taken me over a month to get this video done due to a backlog of other shows and me being out of town and a few other small factors. But let's go ahead and introduce Xtreme Motorsports Racing League, who can be found at xtrememotorsports99.com. Xtreme Motorsports seek to offer league racing environment that provides the most realistic racing experience possible. They focus much energy on league communication and clean racing, and have a website that fully details all of the events, standings, and detailed information on all of their different series. They also offer racing on most weekday evenings in a variety of different car types. On Mondays, there's the NASCAR K&N Series, and there's also the IMSA Series sponsored by Rick Motec. On Tuesdays, they have the Camping World Truck Series. On Wednesdays, there's an Xfinity Series. And then on Thursdays, they have their Monster Energy Cup Series. With most of their races being broadcast live by various different broadcast teams, I again was invited to run in the IMSA Series sponsored by Rick Motec, which in one class has the Mustang and another in the Mazda Miata, which is the one I chose, in iRacing. So I got down to painting up a car. Kevin Ford went ahead and sent me a copy of all the contingency stickers to put on the car. I did that, and then it was time to do some practice before the race. Prior to the race, I actually started receiving emails from Xtreme Motorsports giving me updates on weather and practice sessions, and they actually set up a bunch of different servers for all of the league members to be able to practice for the event. And on top of that, they use what they call realistic weather, which is checking in with the weather of the actual city that we're going to be racing on, the predicted weather, and then they keep changing it as we get closer to the event, so you can practice under the weather that you think you're going to be running under. So I did a whole bunch of practice getting ready for it, and then came down to the race. On race day is when I really got to see Xtreme Motorsports at their best. They talked about realism, and this was so true on race day. Everything starts off with a mandatory drivers meeting. Every driver needs to be on TeamSpeak, where they go over the rules of the day, bring up any conditions or things to be worried about, looking out for black flags, cutting corners, how to handle things, how to handle yourself and conduct yourself on track. And that's really important when it comes down to running a tight league, and that's totally different than that open world racing that I talked about. It was also a warning to the drivers to keep it clean, respect each other, and how to deal with multi-class driving. And then lastly, to make sure that all of the drivers understood the qualifying and race start procedure. After all of the information was passed, after all of the drivers' questions were answered, it was off to the national anthem and then off to the race. Now for their qualifying procedure, you have two different classes, so they break us into two different groups, starting with us slow guys running the Miata. So they sent us out for qualifying. For my qualifying, I took it easy and just tried to lay down a consistent lap with no off tracks or contact to nullify the lap. I ended up putting in a lap time of 5:03.609, which put me 8th on the grid, but it was clear that the class of our group was Giuseppe Iannucci, who took the pole with a 4:56.186, which was 7 seconds faster than me. Travis Swenke took second, and David Payton finished in third. Then it was time for me to sit back, relax, grab a drink, go to the bathroom, and watch the Mustangs go out for their qualifying runs. We would see yet another Iannucci win the Mustang class qualifying. This time, it was Pasquale Iannucci with the best time of 4:35.470, a little more than a half a second faster than Clint Vigas in second and Mike Dam in third. And then it was time for the race, 90 minutes of Le Mans in a Mazda Miata. Now the race director had described the start. The Mustang class was going to start normally behind the pace car on a rolling start. However, the Miatas were going to be held back and they were going to be paced by pole sitter Iannucci. As the cars were preparing for the start of the race, the fans and drivers were treated to a flyby just as the pace car pulled down pit lane, and the Mustangs roared to life. Our lead group got away clean, with Iannucci getting a slight lead and Vigas following behind him in second. Russell Ruddock made a move for third on Dam, but a couple of corners later, Dam earned back his spot and the leaders were underway. At the start, there was one issue as Robert Brist got a little bit loose and got into the door of Stephen Thomas. Thomas had a bit of damage, but Brist got the worst of it, running off the track with a damaged nose. As the Mazdas got ready for their start, Iannucci paced the field, and then at the best moment, he dropped the hammer and took the lead from the start. Payton, starting in third, got a good jump and was able to pull into second ahead of Swanky. 2 corners into the race, and fighting for 6th place, Scott Kennedy and Tyler McFarland got into each other. I was right behind them, and I checked up and swerved to avoid, leaving Chris Thorman nowhere to go as he bumped me from behind. I got rear-end damage that would drastically slow down my car, and Thorman received some nose damage that would haunt him for the event as well. And then we started to see what we would see all day long, and that was cars swarming together, using the draft to pull past each other on the long straights of Le Mans. You would see cars go from first to third and third to first, and this was the case in both the Mustangs and the Mazdas. By the end of the first lap, it was Iannucci, Dam and Vigas leading the way in the Mustangs, and shortly behind them in the Mazdas, it was Swanky, Iannucci, and Payton leading the class. On lap 2, Clint Vigas, running in third, went wide and got a slowdown penalty. This dropped him back to 8th place, and we would see cars have this issue all day long. While most of the passing happened from the draft, well, there were occasional moments where contact would have a hand in positions as well, as we see the results of the accordion effect when series director Kevin Ford got into the back of Brandon Whitworth, sending him off the track.
Sorry about that, guys. I didn't see what was happening there.
On lap 4, cutting penalties would hit yours truly, as I got a bit aggressive in the chicane and clearly crossed over the bumper. I tried to time the bleeding off of the cutting penalty, and I thought I was doing it fast enough, but the long straights at Le Mans killed me, and I was hit with a black flag and would be going to pit lane early. By lap 5 in the Mustangs, it was Mike Dam now in the lead, followed closely by Russell Riddick and Pasquale Iannucci. Michael Burgett was running in 4th, and Kevin Ford had pulled up into 5th. In the Mazda class, our mini swarm had stretched out a bit, with Travis Swanky leading the way over Giuseppe Iannucci and David Payton, with George Feick just hanging on in 4th and Tyler McFarland running in 5th. On lap 6, Russell Reddick left the podium battle and dove into the pits for his pit stop. Iannucci and Dam continued on, now a 2-car battle for the lead, with Iannucci leading the way. On lap 6, we'd also see the Miata group split up. David Payton skipped the pits, but Iannucci went in. Pike, Hartley, and Swanky dove into the pits as well, but McFarland stayed out. A lap later, Pasquale Iannucci and Mike Dam made their way down pit lane for fuel and tires. Iannucci won that race off pit lane, and he and Dam headed out of the pits well ahead of Stephen Thomas, now running in 3rd. By the time the pit rotations had fully completed, and with a handful of laps to go, Pasquale Iannucci had broken out a slight lead over Mike Dam. Clint Vigas had somehow worked his way back into 3rd, followed closely by Stephen Thomas. And on the Mazda side of things, David Payton led the way with Giuseppe Iannucci right behind. A little ways back was Hartley, McFarland, and of course Swanky. On lap 14, Mike Dam had closed the gap and used the draft to make a pass for the lead on Iannucci. As the end of the race drew closer, Miata leader Robert Hartley decided he didn't have enough fuel and had to come in for a splash and go. Tyler McFarlane had the same issue and also came down pit lane, having misjudged fuel as well. And after a race-long battle, Pasquale Iannucci was able to win this 90-minute endurance race. Mike Dam finished in second, and somehow Clint Vargas clawed his way back into third. As the Miata guys flew to the finish, David Payton had a sizable lead, but a cutting penalty followed by a run down pit lane stole that victory from him. Meanwhile, there was a dogfight for what would be the winner in Mazda class. The mini swarm of Swenke, Hartley, and Iannucci had been exchanging positions on each draft, but when they came to the line, it was Travis Swenke in the lead, with Hartley running in second. But Hartley got loose off the final corner, and as he tried to save it, got a slight tap from Iannucci, who went on to finish in second place. Hartley collected himself and the car and limped home in third. And you just have to love the level of competition when after a 90-minute long race, you have the top three battling for the final position in both classes. Congratulations to everybody who finished on the podium and raced in the event. My day didn't go that well. I ended up finishing in 9th, but I had a lot of fun running the event. After the event, we were treated also to a post-race drivers meeting where Kevin Ford took us through the final standings and congratulated all the winners.
8th place goes to Jeff Jacobs. Great job, Jeff. 9th place goes to Mike Burgett. Mike, it was good to see you running up front at the beginning tonight. 10th place.
This was a perfect way to finish the event, and almost all of the drivers were also there to give their congratulations to the winners as well. Xtreme Motorsports Racing League is a perfect example of why so many drivers prefer to run in that league environment. Top-notch admins, a great website with standings and information, emails giving the drivers all the information they need to know, live broadcasts of the races, and most importantly, good solid racing from guys that you know each and every week. It was my pleasure to run with such a well-oiled machine that is Xtreme Motorsports Racing League. If you're looking for a fun league racing environment, do yourself a favor and check them out. And it's the perfect time because they just ended this series this season, so they're probably looking for drivers. This is the Simpit. I'm Sean Cole, and I'll see you on the track.